As always, it is my pleasure that you join me for today's podcast of Second Chance Coaching. My name is Dr. Richard Lewis. If you'd be so kind as to leave me a rating and your feedback, I would very much appreciate it, and it will help others like you to optimally discover this podcast wherever you listen to this and your other favorite podcast. As you know, at Second Chance Coaching, we focus on seeing everyday life through the eyes of the returning citizen and highlighting the resiliency of the human spirit. I would love to work with you one-on-one, whether you're a returning citizen or coaching client seeking your second chance, or you're a representative of a business, college, or university seeking to integrate and support returning citizens in your respective organizational and learning environments. Please feel free to contact me via email at richard@secondchancecoaching.com or via Instagram at @the_Dr.RichardLewis. Welcome again to another edition of Second Chance Coaching. As always, it is my pleasure to join you on another week of your reentry journey from whichever corner of the world you're listening from. We always remain humbled and excited that you decided to spend a part of your week with us. Well, this week, at the time that I'm recording this week's podcast, it is the morning after Election Day in the United States of America. And as I'm speaking to you now, Donald Trump is on the cusp of becoming elected, or in this case, reelected, to be our 47th president of the United States, which certainly makes people who voted for him and supported for him very happy. It makes those of us, and I include myself in that, who didn't vote for him, not as happy. So I definitely had a plan as what I was going to talk about this week in Second Chance Coaching, and we'll talk about that topic next week. But I definitely wanted to talk about how I feel, and how you might feel coming, after this election. Don't have any show notes, so I'm certainly going off the top of my head and just talking about how I feel. I haven't spoken to anybody about how I feel. I haven't posted anything on social media in regards to the election or how I feel. I try to stay away from it because so many people post so much vitriol. I just feel like, maybe it's not really that worth it to really post anything because it just turns into arguing where people are not changing anybody's minds anyway. Well, now that the election has passed, I could say that I certainly voted for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz because ultimately they speak to the things that I want, as a returning citizen, as a minority, as a working class individual. They speak to the things that I want. I certainly understand that people may look at Donald Trump and say, okay, well, the economy and the border and things of that nature, even though logically people could say that there's even more crossing, there's even more quote unquote illegal crossings that happen at airports every day, more so than the southern border. But I get it, that people, you can't tell people how to feel, and people go by how they feel. And certainly if I go to Target and I have to pay, seems like I pay $100 every time I go to Target or to Publix. Do I put that at the feet of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? Maybe not necessarily. I mean, I think a lot of the inflationary prices that are happening is probably a bounce back or a course correction or whatever the case may be. And we're still dealing with a post-COVID dynamic. I think that normalization still has to take place. And unfortunately, those who are in charge are gonna feel the heat. To me, I think that some of the things that affect me directly, in addition to groceries, high insurance prices, condo regulations as far as how we get insurance, some of those things are more affected at the local level than they are at the national level. But certainly, I think about what the implications of this election will be personally. How will that affect my student loan forgiveness? What will my student loan payments look like? How does my health insurance look? I mean, just yesterday, my health insurance, and I'm changing over to a new health insurance provider from my full-time job, and my current primary care physician doesn't do business with my health insurance provider anymore. So when I went to change my my appointment, they said that, okay, well, we can only take you once you have your new health insurance that we will accept. And I said, well, can I just still see the doctor even if I'm willing to pay out of pocket? The woman wasn't willing to help me at all with that. She goes, nope, can't do it. Even if you're willing to pay out of pocket, the fact that you're currently insured with somebody we can't take, we cannot see you. Now, who's to blame for that? Is it the healthcare insurance system? Is it Joe Biden? Is it Kamala Harris? Is it Donald Trump? Is it the mayor of Hollywood where I live? Is it the governor of the state of Florida? I don't know. But I know that those challenges and those difficulties come into play every single day. I know as a returning citizen that we have tough dynamics to work through every day, whether it be the way people see us, the way people feel about us, the way people decide to say, do they spend time around us? Do they give us opportunities? Do they enable us to optimize our opportunities? And if you're a minority, on top of that, that's even more so. And then when I look at some of the initiatives that didn't pass, reproductive rights didn't pass in Florida. Recreational marijuana use did not pass in Florida last night. And more so for the reproductive rights, I think about the kind of world we're living in that, what does this mean for my daughter? What does it mean for my granddaughter, my godchildren, my great niece? What does it mean for them that, they still live in a world where men could legislate the freedom that they have over their bodies? In addition, I also think about the fact that, when I look at the language that Donald Trump used, to me, I couldn't vote for a man that would say that me as a Haitian man, that my people eat cats and dogs and talk about them so badly. In that respect, among many other things, that was automatically disqualifiable for me, and I couldn't vote for this man as to be my president. And that means something because that's how it is that I felt. And when I look at the fact that there are people who support him, to me, I say, well, I have to question that. Even with people that I've gone to high school with, people I've known all my life who do support him, maybe some of you support him in the reentry movement. I don't know. But I know for sure that when I sit there and look to help people, I don't ask whether or not they support Donald Trump or not. I just ask if they need help. But when I look and have the conversation about people who support Donald Trump and the things that and support him in spite of the things he says, it gives me pause. And it gives me pause to sit there and think to myself what kind of country we live in. We do live in a country in the United States of America that still has a lot of racial bias, still has a lot of sexism, and still has a lot of things to work on. That is the truth. And especially when it comes to giving second chances to returning citizens. Now, does it mean that I'm going to leave the country when people say, oh, I'm going to leave the country, I'm going to move out, I'm not going to come back? No, absolutely not. I'm not leaving my country. This is where I live. This is where I make my life. And this is where I make my bones. And this is where I think that I make the impact on people that are in my circle and the impact that they make upon me. But there's something to be said that we have to answer for that. We have to understand, like, what kind of country do we live in? Who are we looking to be? Yes. Do we want to sit there and address the economy? Absolutely. Do we want to address immigration? Absolutely. Do we want to address different things that are, things costing too much, whether it be groceries or rent or mortgage or whatever the case may be? Absolutely. But ultimately, whoever became president, whether it was Donald Trump or Kamala Harris or whomever, to me, I still have to go to work today. I still have to do what it is that I have to do to pay my bills. I still have to advocate and work towards second chances for those who are looking to optimize their second chance. I still have to walk on my reentry journey and optimize my second chance. That doesn't change. And a lot of those changes are going to happen at the local level. I still have to hustle and make my daily bread. I still have to pray every day. I still have to take care of myself. I still have to give and receive love from family, friends, and loved ones. I still have to live in a world where I have to optimize and live and make the best of my second chance every single day. That doesn't change who's based on who the president is. And it shouldn't change for you on your reentry journey as to who the president is. Because a lot of times I'm quite sure I'm going to be faced with the question of, well, Richard, what's next? What do we do next as far as that's concerned? And I just don't, I want to say from an optimistic standpoint, I don't think we're as far off as one would think that we are, despite the language that's out there. A few weeks ago, I might have shared this in the last one or two podcasts. A few weeks ago, I was in Orlando and I was sitting at the hotel bar watching. This was the night the Yankees clinched the American League pennant against the Guardians. So I was watching the game. I was sitting next to a gentleman, and we were making small talk. He was rooting against the Yankees. He saw I was a Yankee fan, and I was rooting for the Yankees, and we were just having a talk. Just small talk. I could tell that Caucasian gentleman. I could tell he had a deep Southern drawl, and just in the way he was talking, he was there with his family. He was asking me what I was doing there. I said I was there for a union conference, and I guess in the way he could see that I talked and the things that I was saying, I could hear talking the things that he was saying, that he was definitely a Trump supporter. He voted for Donald Trump, and he could definitely see that I was definitely not a Trump supporter, and I confirmed it that I was certainly not one either. And we had the opportunity to really talk about, well, what does that mean? And I told him what it is that I do as a professor. I told him what it is that I do as a second chance person. I told him that, despite a lot of things that are going on, I have students who are members of the LGBTQ plus community. I have students who are transgender. I have students who have come to this country to look for a better life, that their parents brought them here. I have students who are undocumented and are afraid every day of what it means for them, for their existence, that they want to make sure that they matter, that they're not left behind and thrown away to the side. And me interacting with them, and me being their professor, their mentor, somebody that's a part of their lives, a part of their circle, I need to pay attention to that. Those kids matter to me. And of course, I think about my granddaughter. I think about Janelle. I think about my grandniece and grandnephew. I think about Lexan and Akila. I think about my godchildren. I think about my godchildren who have children now. I think about my daughter. I think about my sister. I think about my friends. All of those things that happen and things that are saying that are just not in their best interest when it means voting for Donald Trump. And I straight up asked him, I said, when he says the things that he says, does that say something to you? Does that not matter to you? Does that not affect you? And of course, he said to me that he did not like the things that were being said, but he made the decision to look past those things and to sit there and concentrate on the things that were important to him. He talked about, how taxes and the tax code as an entrepreneur were things that were important to him, making sure that, that the country is protected and the borders are not just open. And we both talked about the economy. We talked about insurance and gas costing too much. We talked about all those things, and we were just two men having a conversation. And it wasn't a conversation in which we were trying to change each other's minds. I mean, we obviously were not. But in the midst of the conversation, I'd like to believe that we began to understand each other a lot more and realize that we were much more alike than we were apart. We were just choosing different ways to get to that place. We talked about what it was like being a father to a child that's growing into adulthood, a child that is an adult. And we laughed and joked about those things. We talked about he was on marriage number 2. We talked about what that was like, going through divorce and what it must have been like, for him to decide to be married again. So it was funny because we pivoted from what our political differences were to really the things that we found that we were much more alike in. And it didn't happen. We didn't intentionally do it. It just happened to become an organic conversation. So I remember at the end of the conversation, we both did the favor of each other. I bought him around. I bought him a beer. He bought me a drink. And we had a good time, just really talking with each other and really coming away with a better understanding of the type of people that vote for either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. We figured that, okay, we have a better understanding. It doesn't mean that we agree with each other. It doesn't mean that we were changing our vote, but we just had a better understanding and we weren't vilifying one another. And at the end of the day, when I think about this, without having spoken to anybody at the time I'm making this recording about how they feel about the vote, I certainly am not happy. I wish that Donald Trump did not get elected again. I don't think that his kind of language and the way he represents himself and the way he represents our country is good for our country ultimately. I don't think it's good for my children. I don't think it's good for my grandchildren. I don't think it's good for my family. It's not good for me, and it's not good for returning citizens that I coach and mentor with, or the students that I interact with every single day. But for all intents and purposes, this man is going to be our president. And what concerns me is even more is not so much that he'll be our president, but then now Congress, the Republicans will control Congress at the Senate and at the House level. So there's going to be no real check and balance. It's kind of be like, well, anything that they want to put through, at least for the first 2 years, is going to go through. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So what does the returning citizen now do? What do you do? If this was not a person that you voted for, what is it that you need to do to sit there and change the tide and decide what are you going to do? You're going to keep on living, that's for sure. You got to keep on going to work. You got to keep on making your daily bread. You got to keep on making your difference in the world. And that's where you start. Make the difference in your world and be active politically in your local communities. Know what's going on in your school board. Be involved in the Little League. Be involved in community advisory boards. Run for city council if you want to, because that's not impossible. There's a lot of different things that one could do to make the difference in their lives. Serve on your condo board. And I know a lot of those things are busy. Sometimes we just don't have the time. Believe me when I tell you, I wish I could have a 30-hour day and a 10-day week. But certainly I can't buy 6 more hours, and I can't buy 3 more days in a week. So I have to deal with the 24 hours and 7 days a week, just like you do. But I try to make the best of it, because if I want to make a difference, it's not going to be given to me. The opportunity is there for me to do it, but it's not going to be given to me, and it won't be given to you as a second chance citizen. There's still a lot of things that are still on the board. Reproductive rights is still going to be talked about and debated. Recreational use of marijuana and how we look at drugs in a medicinal purpose is still going to be looked at. Insurance, rent, health insurance, all those things are still going to be looked at as far as things that could be changed. The period has not stopped. The period has not been put on those sentences. You could still make those differences. How returning citizens are welcomed and treated in this world, that is an ongoing, evolving conversation. That has not stopped. You are still there. You are still there to be that advocate for you, your family, your friends, and your loved ones. And it's irrespective of who is the president, who you are has not changed. What you stand for has not changed. And what you believe in has not changed. So in this post-election, what does this mean for second chances? Second chances are still there. We have to go for it. We have to take advantage of it. We have to optimize it. And in some cases, we have to create it. As always, this is one of my favorite parts of the week, spending time with you here at Second Chance Coaching. But you know what? Be upset if you want to. Be happy if you choose to, depending on who you voted for. But after you're upset, after your elation and your happiness, we still have to get to work, whether you won or whether you lost. And the thing is, in this post-election season, second chances are still there for us to get. Let's continue to get it. I always want to thank you for always sharing time with me. Thank you for continuing to spread Second Chance Coaching to your friends. Thank you for putting up with me talking to you a little bit without any prepared show notes and just telling you how I feel, how you probably feel, how we feel. And whether somebody is somebody that is somebody you agreed with or didn't agree with, have that conversation with them. Buy them a beer. Get to a place of understanding. You never know. That second chance might start the optimization right then and there. But once again, I want to thank you for always sharing your time with me. Thank you for continuing to spread Second Chance Coaching to your friends, family, and loved ones. And I look forward to spending time with you again next week. Thank you again for joining us here at Second Chance Coaching. In addition to coaching services for individuals and businesses, I'm also available for speaking engagements and workshops on criminal justice reentry, human resources, as well as organizational culture and leadership. Feel free to email me at richard@secondchancecoaching.com, as well as connect with me on Instagram at @the Dr. Richard Lewis. Remember, Every day you are given this opportunity for your second chance, and I know you'll make the best of it. I love you all, and I look forward to connecting with you next time here at Second Chance Coaching.